sort of what the empiricists really fleshed out, right? So rationalists come on the scene and say everything's about the mind. Empiricists come on the scene, Locke and Hume and others, and say, no, 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 it really is about the external world. Kant hybridizes the two, but he collapses everything into this sort of dogmatic Christian-informed morality. And Nietzsche says, no, we were so close. We were so close, right? What we should have recognized after the empiricists, Kant, what we should have recognized after the empiricists is that our morality inheres within the empirical world. You shot it out back to the divine. This is what we've been trying to do away with forever. And now we're back into transcendental discourse, right? That is a bit technical. Those of you who really understand sort of the history of philosophy will make more sense. I apologize for people who don't understand. That was definitely on another level. But I can't make it any simpler than that. I apologize. Basically, what Nietzsche is saying is, damn, we were right there. We were right there. And I think it's been on pause since Nietzsche. It has been on pause since Nietzsche, right? So, contemporary philosophers, contemporary biologists, I know they're doing it. It's where, show me morality in the external world, right? And it doesn't exist as something that can be quantified. That would be wrong. It is the relationship, the dialectical relationship between, Nietzsche has it right, there's nothing to add to this other than sort of facts and demonstrate that this is right. I'm convinced that this is right, that the external world projects information, sense data to us that we receive, and the process in which we turn those perceptions into an evaluation of the nature of the thing and cast judgment. That relationship is what I think Nietzsche expected Kant to do. And unfortunately, his morality, and to a lesser extent his epistemology, was informed by the Christian moral tradition, and Nietzsche is infuriated by that fact. Okay, alright, so the last thing I want to do is read note 266 in its entirety. Very, very important. Holy crap, that's pretty long. Did I want to read the whole thing? Yeah. Note that says, read and explain in detail, note 266. Okay. Note 266. A morality as a work of immorality. We understand what Nietzsche means by immorality now. It's nothing to be scared of. I've talked in depth about this, so I'm not going to go through that too much. For moral values to gain dominion, they must be assisted by lots of immoral forces and effects. Okay, it's pretty obvious. The origin of morality, the origin of moral values, is the work of immoral effects and considerations. The origin of moral values, the way that we arrive at moral values, is the work of immoral effects and considerations. Okay, we can make the distinction, sort of this polemic distinction between morality and immorality, based on prescriptions from a moral law, and the origins of those values take into consideration those things which are condemned by the moral law. Okay, morality as the work of error. That's just Nietzsche's writing, just sort of fragmented thought. Morality always contradicts itself, which we now see, right? What you can and can't do. To be sort of specific in the critique of this, this would come as a, and I've lectured on this in the separate series, this comes as a consequence of, for example, divine command theory. In divine command theory, God commands man not to kill. Thou shalt not kill. So if you kill, your action is wrong. Not only wrong, to be technical and stay in line with the lecture, your action is immoral. But God commands a few specific people to kill. If they kill, their action is moral. One and the same action, killing, is both moral and immoral. Hence, morality always contradicts itself. Okay, the steps. Absolute dominion of morality. All biological phenomena measured and judged by moral values. This is what we're talking about now, right? Attempts to identify life with morality. Symptoms of an awakened skepticism. This is great, right? This is great. Attempts, two is very important, right? In this would be C2, right? In note 266. Attempts to identify life with morality. we're trying to identify life, the external world, with morality, right? This is this sort of biological interconnectedness, dialectical sort of exchange between the stuff in the world as objective fact and the moral evaluations, because there are no moral phenomena, and the moral evaluations and interpretations that we apply to those facts, right? So, attempts to identify life with morality. Symptoms of an awakened skepticism. Morality must no longer be felt as an antithesis. Several means, even a transcendental way. 3. The transcendental way being the Kantian way, which is something he doesn't accept. 3. Opposition to life and morality. Morality judged and condemned from the point of view of life. So we understand that. The idea that I look at morality as a law, as the law, and I recognize its anti-biology, right? And its condemnation of my essence, if you will, and thus the system collapses. To what extent morality has been detrimental to life, to the enjoyment of life and gratitude towards it, we know all this stuff. The knowledge of life, we know how morality has collapsed life. So, I mean, D is stuff that we've covered infinitely many times throughout this lecture so far. So we'll skip through D. Nothing really complicated to understand there. This is the interesting part. E, right? Counter-reckoning. Its usefulness for life. Morality as a principle that preserves the general whole, as a limitation upon its members. The instrument. Morality becomes, can be, right? Morality can be instrumentalized, right? Morality can be instrumentalized, operationalized. You can take morality out of the clouds, right? Out of the ethos, out of the transcendental realm that Kant left it, out of the impractical thought that you can universalize a maxim and that everyone's actions should conform to the maxim, not only in action but in thought. What does that mean? That's never. Yeah, I mean, that's going to exist in the. That's good. That's great for writing a paper, Kant. That's great for creating, a dogma, like the religious traditions do. But in practice, it's completely infeasible, right? This sounds, Nietzsche would say, like the notion of Christian guilt, right? That it isn't even the case that the performance of the act is a sin. It's the thought of the performance of the act where the origin of the sin lies. Similarly, it isn't the case that the immoral action is immoral insofar as it's an action. The immoral action is in the thought of the action. Come on, man. This is Nietzsche's like that's insane, right? So we want to instrumentalize. We need to have a morality that actually works, and most importantly, which we'll see later, a morality that inheres within our biology. That's the key. I'll give you the key, right? The key is we need a morality that inheres within our biology. We have yet to fully articulate that. There are some naturalistic accounts of ethics. Noted feminist ethicist Philippa Foot sort of places morality in naturalistic terms. She did some profound research. I'm not going to get into that stuff now. But no one has really approximated the true interrelationship that Nietzsche has talked about. You would need sort of, a meeting of the minds between, Nietzschean scholars, analytic and continental philosophers, and sort of physical biologists. And they would just need to sit down and talk, I guess, and really flesh out what this might look like. I think it would be interesting once it was totally realized. Morality is a principle that preserves man from the inner peril of his passions. The mediocre, I'll talk later about that. Morality is the principle that preserves man from the life-destroying effects of profound misery and atrophy. The suffering, we understand the role of representation of suffering. I talked about that earlier, or previously. And lastly, morality as the principle that opposes the fearful outbursts of the powerful, the lowly. He hasn't really addressed this concept much yet, but we will see how morality becomes, and I mean it's sort of in line with everything that he says. Morality becomes